is Philip, and for the past 6 months now I've been making videos centered around the less conventional health and well-being topics, such as barefoot movement or the science behind earthing or grounding. I really like to learn about these topics, partially because, well, they're not really talked about all that much, but also as a civilization we have deviated a lot from base human behavior, for better or for worse, but it just so happens that right now the world isn't in its best form. It could be doing better, and I can't help but think that those two things are tied. That as a society we seem to be getting more unhappy, we seem to be getting more stressed and focused on productivity, and at the same time we've deviated so much from what it means to be a human and to operate in a very naturally human way. And it's the complete polar opposite life that I used to live before I moved to Sweden, and the immense changes that I was able to make after moving to Sweden that really spurred my love for well-being and improvement. Cork City, Ireland, the location of my previous life. For all its quirks and its charms, for which there are many because it is a really interesting city, it was still, at the end of the day, a city. It was an environment where to be busy was a source of pride. It was still an environment where all sorts of stimulation were being used day in and day out as a means of having some form of distraction from the monotony of everyday life. To me, that type of environment lacked any semblance of stillness. That's important to me because I think stillness is where meaning is found. Kind of like armchair philosopher here. You're walking along the beach on the shoreline in the shallow waters and you drop your keys. If the water's calm, you have a good chance of being able to find your keys. If the waves are crashing down, it's still possible to find your keys, but it's going to be a lot more difficult. And that's how I feel it is to find meaning in a city environment, at least to me personally. There's a saying that says, you're a product of your society, and I find that to be completely true. And it can either be a really good thing or it can be a really bad thing. To me, it was definitely the latter. I was a product of that environment. So a typical day in my life would look like I wake up at 5 a.m. I get to the gym at 6 a.m. I work out until 7:30. I'd head to my office, which is right next to the gym. I'd spend basically from 7:30 until 9 a.m. in the office doing my own thing. And then I'd work from 9 to 5. I'd walk home, which is a 30-minute walk. I'd make dinner. I'd have a few hours to myself, and then I'd go to bed. I'd do it day after day after day. And sometimes I wouldn't go to the gym. Sometimes I'd just start work, and I would find myself working 16-hour days, which is, if I look back now, that's insane. Unexpectedly, I burned out. Go figure. And in order to keep up with the lifestyle I was living, in order to cope with it, I was taking part in distractions that you'd find in a city. I was vaping, I was smoking, I was drinking, I was buying useless shit I didn't need, even working excessive hours and going to the gym like a maniac. These were all distractions, and they did exactly what they were meant to do. They stopped me from realizing the, I'm not going to say unhappiness, discontent I felt in my life at that point by occupying my mind with useless temporary BS. I basically had an entire reward mechanism set out to reward me for being unhappy and complacent. And I think that's more common than not. Anyway, through making extremely positive and impactful changes to my life, which I'll definitely talk about in future videos, I'm here. Me and my Sambo, Maria, have just purchased our dream home in the middle of the remote, idyllic Swedish wilderness. At this point, I've been living in Sweden for around 4 years. I moved here in November 2019. And my main goal, my dream, my ambition is to assimilate into the Swedish culture as much as I possibly can. And for the past 4 years, I've been doing that. So I've been trying my best to understand the Swedish culture and get invested in it, trying to understand the way that Swedish people live and the way that Swedish people tend to navigate through problems and scenarios in their life, which is, by the way, a huge contrast from my experiences in England and Ireland in the way that most people behave and navigate these things. Finally, language. I really don't like the idea of me coming into a country as somebody from Britain and expecting people to speak my language and communicate on that level. I want people to communicate naturally, and I want to be a part of it. So I've been doing my best to learn the language on my own. I haven't really done any official education, and I've gotten to a point in my Swedish where just this month I've been able to get a Swedish speaking job through Swedish interviews. That's a huge milestone for me. I'm really proud of myself for that. And yeah, I mean, I've got a long way to improve, but at the very least, I've got enough proficiency to get a job here, which is great. This brings me nicely onto where I want to take this channel, because I still absolutely love holistic health and well-being, especially the less conventional topics. As I said before, I just have so much fun researching them, so I'm going to continue with that. But I want to center that content around my life here in Sweden, because absolutely, hands down, my move to Sweden has been the biggest improvement to well-being that I could possibly have imagined. And it isn't to do with me moving to the country. It has nothing to do with the specific location. It has nothing to do with the cabin in the forest that I live in. It was the fact that I had the privilege to have access to that mindset. By profession, I'm a UX designer. So my belief is, ultimately, problems are more effectively solved when they're framed properly through the use of different perspectives or lenses. And obviously, problems that occur in your life are going to be way more difficult to solve if you don't have the sufficient amount of ways to view them. I want a lot of this channel to focus on sharing the perspectives that came as a byproduct of me moving to Sweden and was responsible for just this major, huge improvement in my health and well-being and overall happiness that got me to a level of proficiency in Swedish that I'm able to get a Swedish-speaking job through viewpoints that I've learned that bring us closer to nature and reassess the idea of convenience. I haven't really mentioned a lot about my cabin in the woods, but rest assured that that's going to be a big part of this channel as well. It is a very old house, it's in need of a lot of TLC, and I am absolutely definitely not qualified to do it, so this should be fun. So it will end up being a huge part of this channel. I guess my side goals here are to improve my video editing skills and also to improve the way I talk to a camera, because it's really awkward right now speaking to a lens. So maybe you're from a different country and you're thinking of relocating to Sweden. Or maybe you're really interested in well-being topics and you want to see it from a perspective of a country that does a lot of things right. Maybe you want a temporary escape into nature and the forests, in which case I will do whatever I can to help with that. Or maybe you just want to see a clueless Muppet from England try his hand at DIY. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, I would encourage you to like and subscribe so that you don't miss out on all of the new updates that I'm going to post. But that's enough about me. I'd love to get to know you guys who are watching my videos. Who are you? How old are you? Whereabouts in the world do you live? Where are you in your life right now? Pineapple and pizza, yes or no? The hard-hitting questions. If you feel comfortable doing so, drop a comment down below and we can have a good old conversation. Until then, catch you later. Oh yeah. Did I really go that whole video with a Christmas tree behind me and I didn't say anything about Christmas? Merry Christmas, guys. Season greetings. Hope you have an amazing holiday. You're probably not watching this at Christmas, but Merry Christmas for your closest Christmas.